Yeah, he's going to do a little cummy into the toilet bowl. Go see fucking Spidey together.
Yep, and celebrate Tim Kish's B-Day.
Oh shit, when's Tim's birthday?
Spider-Man Day.
On the 7th.
Yep.
Oh my god. I'm going to do a little wank in to everyone in the theatre. We're all going to have a little sort of jerk-off session whilst watching Spider-Man. It's just going to be a wonderful time.
So I just, your first place you went to is I'm going to jerk off everyone in the theater. That's your first celebration. It's Tim's birthday. Yeah. Let's jerk off everybody I see.
That's the ultimate measure of excitement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Reasonable Beef. I am Tim E. Kish. I am joined today. Who's back from Trebek?
Hey, here I am back.
Alex from Tribeca.
Yeah, this is me, Dom.
And how's it going, Dom? Welcome back.
It's going great. Thanks for having me back.
Fuck you.
Great. Cool.
How dare you leave?
No, this is
It's
good.
2 weeks. I haven't heard a thing.
Oh, Tim.
Yeah.
And who else are we? Who's with us?
It's hang on. Let me get my sheet.
That's a water bottle.
It's Jack Howard.
Hello.
Yeah, there he is.
Hey.
Hi, that's me.
how
I'm
are you?
Jack. That's my name.
What's up, Jack?
Nothing much, man. Just sitting on my bed, acting like we're all in the same room.
Yeah.
That's great.
I have great memories. I know you're not in the same bed, Jack, but when I stayed there, I have such vivid memories of me and you spending hours of my trip to England just laying in your bed together and watching Community and eating chocolate.
Yeah, eating chocolate and chips, and it was just fucking great.
Huh.
It was a wonderful time.
Is this a bit?
No, this is real life.
This is a real thing that happened.
When I went to England, we spent lots of time in Jack's bed.
Wow. Because that's the gayest thing I've ever heard.
Because the thing is, as well, like Dom was like exhausted. Like more so than
I'm sure
I've
he
ever
was.
seen most people who come over from America to England. He was so tired. So like when he first got there, he just like went to my room and just crashed for like hours. And then for the rest of it, we did lots of different stuff. We did lots of stuff, but like I do remember a big portion of it was just us watching Community together and eating snacks. It was just that.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. Physically exhausting fun.
Yeah. It was, I gave it my all, but the, jet lag travel.
But my dick was too small.
No, you know what it was, dude? That was right when I was making fucking...
Deck 3.
Failing at finishing Deck 3.
Oh, I thought you were saying that was a line from Deck 3. I gave it my all, but my dick was too small. Deck 3.
Yeah. You remember Deck 3? Christ. So what are we doing?
Yeah. I why does this always happen? Every time I like interact with Jack, it's like, oh, there's going to be a dick and there's going to be a gay joke within the first 10 minutes. I don't know why it happens.
I think I know exactly why that
neither
happens.
of our like particular humors. Why?
Because I think you want to kiss Jack.
Great.
Great.
We saw Guardians
Yes, we did.
of the Galaxy.
did.
Volume 2. Wow.
Volume 2.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It came out this year. It's directed by James Gunn. It stars Chris Pratt.
Yes.
Zoe Saldana.
Yes.
Bradley Cooper.
Yes.
Vin Diesel. Dave Bautista.
He's not in it.
These are all off the top of my head, guys. I'm doing really good at this.
Yeah, that was really good. Who else are we forgetting?
This is a real star-studded cast. Like, I was really reflecting on the cast of Guardians, and I'm realizing that pretty much everyone in this movie has a pretty good career right now. Like, a very good career right now. Kurt Russell's in the middle of a big resurgence. He was just in Fast 8. Yeah. Now he's in this.
Yeah, he's like in a lot of stuff. Like, he was just in so he was in Fast 8 and he was in The Hateful Eight.
That's true. He just loves 8s.
Yeah.
That's it. Those are the only 2 8 movies he's in. I don't know why. It's not even enough to build a pattern. But yeah, he's doing good lately. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I think that it was a good sequel. I think Marvel is now kind of settling into, hey, we can now have stories that are just kind of, we're on an adventure. Doesn't need to build the universe too hard.
Yeah.
And I dug that. But then there's certain things that I'm missing from this. I wish that this took itself a bit more seriously, just a hair more seriously.
That's fair.
Because I feel like a lot of the lines were very not fanficky, but fan servicey, where this is more of what we want to see from these characters that we really like, which is great. But sometimes I feel like it's at the expense of the film as a whole.
Well, that's a weird thing to complain about, but I agree. Like, I know what you mean.
It's too
though.
funny.
Well, it's when it's like I get it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when you can tell they're doing the throwbacks to lines from the other movie or like, you know, interactions from the other movie, you're like, all right, we
right.
Like, I thank you, because it was, I mean, for what it's worth, I thought this one was so much funnier than the other one.
Yeah.
And for better. I don't even think, like, it was maybe, you could say borderline, there were too many, it was too jokey, but like, I don't know, man, it got a lot of big laughs out of me, and I was kind of appreciating it. I was like, oh, this is a comedy.
Yeah, it's 100%
it's like straight up, a comedy film. It's funnier than most films that call themselves comedies. I'm
agreeing with it. I kind of adored that first scene. I also love the idea of having the monster, the big ridiculous fight, completely in the background.
It's peripheral.
I love it, because that's the movie, isn't it? Where it's whatever's happening hardly matters. It's all about the Guardians and their relationship and who they are and what they're doing. And I kind of love that. And you could take this team and put them in any situation, and they'll just kind of figure it out. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's fun to watch. It's kind of fun in the same way what people say about Fast and the Furious, how you're building the family and really growing to love the family. While I don't necessarily agree with that franchise. I mean, I guess I don't have the experience to really make that call, but that's kind of a similar thing with this, where you're just really growing to love the Guardians, and that's the
I agree.
not their adventure.
I mean, it felt like, oh, I'm back with my pals, right? Like,
which is a miracle, because these are comic book unknowns with like 4 years ago.
Yeah, totally. I think it's so impressive how they've managed to do that at all, and also by the second movie, like we're already excited to be back with that lot. So it's very, very impressive, and I also think as well, to the comedy of it, I think I would say, if I was going to go for a percentage, I would say that pretty much 90% of the stuff hit for me. There's like. Like even if I wasn't like laughing, I was like, I enjoyed myself when it was happening. There's one joke in it, like there's probably a few that I think could have been like honed in, or just made sharper, or just toned down or something. But there's one joke in it, and they use it as like a rule of 3 joke that I think is it's not even really a joke. It's not ripe joke. Like that to me was just the most cringeworthy, weird choice. Like that she wants this turnip or whatever it is, and people just keep telling her it's not ripe, and then she takes a bite out of it, and then she goes, "It's not ripe." I'm like, what's the joke there? What are you trying to do? Like that is the one bit where I was like, why was that important to you? Why did you want that to be a joke?
Let me counter, because I think it could have worked if Nebula didn't say it wasn't right, because that's her character, where she just wants it, even though she knows it's not good for her. Like, she wants to kill Gamora. She knows she doesn't really want to kill Gamora, but she's just so singular. She has this like concept of what she wants that she just goes after it. And I feel like it was really reflected in that scene. But what it should have been was she takes a bite out of the thing and then spits it out and like realizes it's bad. Doesn't even say anything about it.
Or you do that, she takes a bite out of it and then she cringes her mouth like she's like eating something horrible, and then someone says, "Is it ripe?" And then she just goes, "Yeah, it's delicious," or something.
Yes, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It could have used just a bit more, because as it stands, it's sort of like a Zucker Brothers joke. You know what I mean? It's almost like too cartoonish.
Sure, yeah.
I felt
it's almost as well like it doesn't change. The joke doesn't change. The joke is it's not ripe, it's not ripe, it's not ripe 3 times. Rather, the third time I always find, and I'm speaking as someone who like writes comedy, I guess, so I look at things a bit differently to I suppose how like a general audience would. So like, this might not bother other people, but I always find that the third time you do a callback joke, you should at least twist it a little bit, and I don't feel like they did that. So this is the only joke that like bothered me, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I'm like, that is the worst joke in this whole thing by a mile, and I don't understand why you felt the need to do it.
But how incredible is it that that's the worst joke in it though, and you're still just like, sure. Like you're like, it's not, it doesn't like ruin anything. It doesn't mess anything up, and it's funny that even just immediately one of the first things we're talking about was just like a one small joke.
And I mean, that speaks to the idea of it as a comedy film, where I was kind of making a similar point with Lego Batman, where Lego Batman throws so many jokes at you, even if they don't all hit, it's funny, because the average of jokes is just gonna lean positive. But with this, I almost felt they were doing something similar, but I wish they would rein it back, because the subject matter is a bit more serious. It's not Batman as a Lego character.
Right.
It's like, now we're dealing with Peter Quill's mom's death. We're dealing with like his father. We're dealing with like questions of existence and godhood and fatherhood. And it's a little too silly, even in those moments. Like, even when Peter Quill finds out that killed his mom, Ego killed his mom, he just like immediately pulls out his guns and shoots, and it's a funny moment.
I didn't see it as funny. I saw it as like, oh, of course, that's just the first. He's just gonna kill him. Yeah,
I definitely see how you can interpret it as cool.
Because it's like, oh, he's gonna go with him. Oh, he believes his dad. Oh my God, he's gonna be on board for this. They're gonna have to all fight Peter. He says, "I killed your mom," and then immediately severs that fucking tie instant. Like he was completely ready to just kill that guy.
I also thought as well that moment was like so nicely handled, just because and I think I'm in the minority here. I didn't see Ego being the villain coming for some reason. I think I was just I went in with such, not low expectations, but just no expectations. I wasn't I wasn't as much of a fan of the first one as everybody else. So when I went in, I was like, I just want this to be fun. And I've heard it's a fun film, so that's all I want it to be. So I wasn't going in like with any idea of what things could be or what they might do or not do. I just went in with nothing. So when he turned out to be the bad guy, I was like, oh, this is a cool little like way that they've gone with this.
I said the same thing to Tim when we left. I was like, why did I not assume Ego
I think I just got lured in. I think I completely fell for it.
Sure.
So the moment where he twists on it, and I was like, okay, this is an interesting twist. And then literally moments before he mentioned that he put the tumor in her head, I was like, did he give her cancer? I was like, no.
I didn't see that coming.
Literally moments before, and then he confirmed it, and I was like, fuck me.
Interesting. And I want to make a point where I often say that Marvel needs better villains. And while I do think he's had his moment, right? I think he fulfilled his arc and what he needed to do for the universe. I don't think we should bring him back. That being said, I think he was a great villain.
I thought he was great.
He has so much personality,
That's my freaking dad really made me laugh.
Oh, God, that's such a bit. It's like, of course I have problems. That's my freaking father.
Yeah,
and
I also really
like the Mummy.
Yeah.
This
Amazing.
is the first time I've ever understood and sort of empathized with the villain's quest to rule the universe. Like, it's the first time I've ever been like, yep, I understand why he wants that. Like, just because he's like sociopath and almost, psychopath to the nth degree, and the fact that he's so bored and he wants everything to be him, and that's his purpose. I'm like, I understand you, and it's the first time I've ever understood that plot.
So Dad represents absolute power but solitude, and his family represents they're scrappy but he has somebody, and those are the two worlds that he's torn between, literally the two sides of himself, the mortal and the immortal. I think that's what Jack's talking about. We're understanding the character's motivation, because you get this guy and you get the concept of being immortal. Like, of course you would want to go and conquer the universe or whatever.
But here's the thing: when literally the second it is, I put a tumor in your mom's head, there's no decision anymore.
Right.
We know he's the bad. Like, that's the fucking end of it. There's no struggle in Peter. Like, we just know, oh, he's bad. He's a bad guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I can see Ego's struggle reflected in some of the lines that he says. Where he's like, if I had to return to Earth a fourth time, I would have stayed with her. I wouldn't have left. That's why I had to kill her. And it's like, you see, oh, this guy's crazy.
I get that, but do you see what I'm saying? Where it's like,
but
that's not like a character decision moment. That's like, oh, you killed my mom. You're fucked up in the head. Of course. He's the bad guy. Of course, I
think. Are you trying to say, Dom, that you would have liked to see a bit more temptation from Peter to have
more temptation, or just something that made a little more sense? Because even at the end, what did it lead up to? What was it? It was like his memories of the team. But we weren't spending the movie feeling like he was ready to leave the Guardians or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I never.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I think that it doesn't bother me because So here's how I feel about just. I'll get to your point in a second. But what I feel is that this movie, my problems with it are that I think it's a little bit clunky in its structure sometimes. I think that they could have done with a bit more of an edit. I think that some of the writing's a little bit lazy because the dialogue is essentially just people saying how they feel a lot of the time. But I also...
Or explaining important things that have happened. And
I think that I forgive it for a lot of that because it's a really big budget like movie for general audiences. It's not specifically going for people who, you know, understand film and will understand things that are subtler or with more nuance. So sometimes you have to just sort of, and because it's a kids movie as well, you have to just say things point blank. So I forgive it for that. But at the same time, I also forgive it because it cares enough about its characters and about its story to try and make you get on side with certain things. So I don't feel the need actually to nitpick this as much. But I do understand what you're saying, that like in that moment, it's just a scene where you think that Peter might be lured across to that side of it, and then he says, "I killed your mom," and then and then all of a sudden he's just and he's a good guy, bad guy.
Well, the decision's gone. Yeah, the decision's gone, and also I guess less than that being a problem for me, because like of course I liked that moment. Like when that happened, when he said that, I was like, oh fuck, and then I loved that he started shooting him and everything. Mm-hmm. But it was the fact that it's the same climax as the other one, where Peter needs to like realize something, and then is strong enough to hold the Infinity Stone, or to like break out of Ego's hold or whatever. I didn't feel like I didn't see them coming. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right, you didn't feel
like,
the build up.
No,
to him
it just
changing.
felt like him having the memories, like the flashbacks with him in the Guardians. I was like, was the whole movie going to that moment, like to him remembering that he loves all of them and blah blah blah? Like I didn't feel that. I didn't really understand that. So it's like weird when I'm supposed to be watching that and be like, fuck yeah. And it just sort of was like happening. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So you're saying
I know what you mean.
The choice was taken away by him killing his mom. If he hadn't revealed that, then it would have been a choice of like, do I really want to pick this solitude with my father over my like adopted actual family, or my adopted family rather?
Right.
I see what you mean.
I think as well that like I've heard the criticism as well that like you don't really get to see Peter Quill interact with Yondu.
Yes.
Like for the whole movie, and like you don't get to see that. Like, I mean, you get to see it a little bit in the first one, I guess, which is probably why you sort of get away with it. But you don't really get a sense that they have a parental relationship at all.
Sure.
And then they just sort of tell you at the end, like, you know, he says like he may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy, and like. I go, oh, that's nice, but also at the same time, I haven't seen that in this movie. You've barely seen each other.
All you see, that was my biggest gripe with the movie too, where this movie spends a lot of time rewriting history from the first one and from like beyond, that Yondu was like this fatherly figure in Peter's life. And the most we see in this is that small flashback where he's showing Peter how to shoot the gun. And that's it. That's all we see. But for whatever reason, it still kind of worked for me.
Yeah, I agree. It
like
sort of worked
Michael
for me
Rooker.
as well. Like, I think it's because, like, you know, all these characters do know each other from the first film, that's
Right.
sort of carried across. But I think as a standalone thing, it might have been better if Yondu, you know, again, it's easy as well. I don't like doing this. It's easy to look from the outside and be like, it would have been better if you did this. So I never really enjoy doing that, but maybe it would have been stronger if Yondu and Peter were together for a lot of it, so that you got to see the difference between his relationship with Yondu and his relationship with Ego. That might have been a nicer dynamic.
I agree, but I do love teaming up Yondu and Rocket.
Absolutely,
that scene is totally on the nose where he says, "I know you, boy, because you're me."
Yeah,
like,
that's one of those.
okay.
That's one of those fucking like. I mean, Yondu gets a lot of those moments where you speak how you feel. Like that whole bit about that what you just said about like because you're me, and then also the bit when he's like, "I don't use my head, boy. I use my heart."
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, we know. We know.
Yeah.
But that's the trope of the straight talking Southern man, where he's always like, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I know it's.
Yeah, you're making me realize, and again, this is me saying, and you're right. You know why it gets away with some of these things is because clearly the movie cares about everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
You can feel the love for everyone.
Can I note on that point? Marvel, out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all of the movies, the most character-loving action scene was in this one, with Rocket Raccoon fighting off those guys coming at him from the campfire. I have never seen a transition from the comics to the screen so good. That is exactly how he fights.
Yeah.
It's all about the traps. It's all about the guns. It's all about the agility. It was the best Marvel fight scene, in my opinion, of the entire series, just because it's so true to the character.
That's really
I was
interesting
shocked.
because that's the scene that I was like, I could have done without that. Like,
Interesting.
See,
In-
you're right.
interesting-
You're right. It's so extra. It's
Yeah.
so extra. But that's a lot of this movie. Like, I could have done without most of the shit on the pirate ship. But like at the same time, I'm sort of glad it's there. This movie didn't need to be 2 hours and 20
No, the
minutes
movie,
long.
you know, and this is I have one foot in the door on this, where it's like, on the one hand, it was sort of refreshing to me how meandering it was, because I was like, this is kind of fucking rad that this is a huge sequel to a giant movie, and it's a Marvel movie no less, and we're just sort of like taking our time, and we're just kind of like hanging out with everybody.
Like, and also as well, like the B plot, like of Rocket and Yondu and all that sort of stuff, is more action led and more Guardians of the Galaxy esque that you'd expect, and the other plot is just Chris Pratt and Kurt Russell just having a conversation in a garden.
Right. And then the
Yeah.
C plot is every once in a while we'll cut back to Drax and Mantis and they'll say something funny.
Yeah.
And then the baby Groot will dance and then back to the A plot.
Yeah, you're making me realize though that I think most emotional, quote unquote, like the emotional hitting moments in this don't land for me. And it's funny, I'm realizing this is me saying, and I've said this before, probably even on this podcast, that in the first movie, it still has one of my favorite movie scenes ever in recent memory, which is when Rocket is crying about Groot being dead, and Drax sits down next to him and pets him.
Yep.
And you see him like hate it for like a second, and then realize it comforts him and feels good. I fucking love that moment so much.
Mm-hmm.
It made me so like I wanted to cry and smile, and I think Rocket is like the strongest thing in these movies, period.
Sure.
Every time he has a thing where I see him feel bad or whatever, like even in this movie, the strongest like relationship thing to me, and this is, again, I don't know, maybe this is just what I am attracted to more, was Peter and Rocket. And when like they have the argument in the beginning,
Right.
and he says, "Are you trying to make everybody hate you because it's working?" That fucking killed me. I was like, oh, is that this movie? Because that's fucking rough, dude. Like, and I wanted to see them come together, and really all we got at the end as a payoff for that was we spend 10 minutes with for what it's worth, and this is me, and again, I'm going to say I'm maybe a little cold about it, but like I don't really care about Yondu. Like I never really, in the first one I didn't really like him. Like his fucking arrow is awesome. I love his, you know, his power, but like I never really liked him in that one. I didn't love him in this one either. So then it was like there was a lot of fuss about him being dead, and I was like, oh, did we all care about him? Because I didn't.
It's interesting because I think Dean had a very similar response of like, oh, I guess we care about Yondu now.
Yeah.
But like for me, like the bit at the beginning actually with Peter and Rocket, I was like, you're both assholes and I don't like either of you right now. Like especially Rocket actually. I was like, I really didn't like him at the beginning. I knew that they were setting up character stuff for them all to like to have arcs and things like that. But for me, the relationship, I think it's because I'm interested in parental stuff, like the relationship between father and son and figuring out who you are and stuff like that. Like that to me was very, very interesting, and I enjoyed seeing that plot unfold and him like learning that about himself, and like and also they're using like that big stupid moment, that really, really fun moment when he goes, "Of course I've got issues, that's my father." Like they're using that, you know, as a huge sort of vehicle to explore a much more personal theme, which I really, really enjoyed the fact that they wanted to do in this huge movie.
Let me counter a couple points as far as Yondu. The big how to do or to do about Yondu at the very end, where you know they have all the things shooting off, and that's hardly about Yondu. That's all about the end of Peter's journey looking for his father, where he finds his father, turns out it was Yondu, and then he buries him, and now we're done with that arc. It's a big part of who he is as a character, so we have this big light show moment at the end where he has this closure, this figurative and literal closure, and then we're now moving on to the other thing. As far as Rocket goes, I kind of think that everyone is kind of an asshole to each other in this movie, and they can be. And the closure is at the end when he slaps the spacesuit onto Quill, and then they go off and go to fight Ego. And he's like, how long do we got? 6 minutes. And they're immediately back into it. And that's what this whole thing's about, where it's like, even when shit is bad between them, they're family. And when it comes down to it, they cut together and they're ready to fight.
That is the best example of family in a movie. I feel like you know, the Fast and the Furious movies, like it's become almost a parody of itself. But like in this, it is like they don't even have to say like, you know, I mean, obviously there's a bit where she says like, you are not friends, all you do is fight with each other, you know, and then there's that bit where he says, you know, we're not friends, we're family. But I think that it is the best representation of a, you know, a large scale movie taking on the thematics of exploring family that I've seen.
I agree,
because that is
honestly.
totally the way it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it's just, I don't know what it, you know, there was just some disconnect with some of the things that the movie was telling me I was supposed to like really be anchored by, and I wasn't. You know what I mean? And I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
think
what
the
that is.
philosophy about a lot of this too is, hey, you know, this could affect you, but even if it doesn't, here's a gold alien saying you suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It constantly throws its own reverence for itself in your face.
Oh, it's a blast.
And they'll make a joke, like an alien who should not make this joke. Like, there's no feasible reason why this would be a part of their culture. Is like making like a dick joke or doing something silly. That's what this whole thing is. And I think in a lot of ways, James Gunn has been given an amazing power by the Marvel gods. You know what I mean? By the producers of Marvel, because he is spearheading Cosmic Marvel entirely.
yeah.
I mean, and Captain Marvel will likely be with that similar tone. Maybe not as silly, but
I mean, you can totally
Space Marvel
see
is silly.
You can see that Thor is absolutely taking the mantle of Guardians of the Galaxy now.
That's an amazing point. That's exactly it. Where now that is the way you make this survive. Where Cosmic Marvel isn't always silly in the comics. Sometimes it's like a little too melodramatic. But if you make Cosmic Marvel silly in the movies and then Earth Marvel like serious and dour, of course that's how you make this thing survive. Now the question is like, how do we make these two universes meet in Infinity War and have them not be like at thematic odds with each other? Like, how do we leverage the silliness and the zaniness from Guardians and the reverence from the Earth Marvel in the same movie? That just seems like it will be a bit of a mess. Like, I'm kind of concerned where this is all ultimately going. You know what I mean?
It almost feels like it's building up to something that like it can't pay off on it. But this is how I felt when the individual movies were leading up to the first Avengers. I was like, no way, it's gonna be fucking shit. There's no way they can handle all those characters and make it a good movie. And when it finished, I can't even remember the last time I felt like, holy shit, that surprised the hell out of me, because I expected it to be bad. And this time I'm like, I don't know what the hell Infinity War is going to be about. It just feels like it's going to be this big, huge, like, battle mess that's going to bring everyone together, and there's not going to be really any driving force or main character or thematic sort of exploration. It just feels like it's going to be an amalgamation of all this stuff, but I've got to be able to, like, look at the history of what Marvel have done and be like, you know what? They've pulled it off before. Who's to say they can't do it again?
That's true. And so I learned that Infinity War isn't the end, which I thought it was the end. I thought we were closing the book, and apparently no, there's more after that.
Of course.
And I mean, there's money to be made. But that's why I was wondering, because Infinity War, I can imagine a big final 2-part movie to close all this. I can't imagine like, let's continue the story beyond Thanos, the final boss of the MCU universe.
My wish is that it will be picking up the pieces after this. So there's going to be we're going to lose some of them, right? There's going to be a status shift.
I mean, I hope it's Steve Rogers. I hope that like the first movie, like around the first Avengers Infinity War movie, because it's not, the second one's not called Infinity War anymore, is it? It's called something else.
Well, they're hiding it because he said recently that the title is a spoiler.
Right. Okay.
And so I think it's New Avengers or something.
Right.
Captain America dies.
Yeah, Captain America dies.
Yeah. So I assume that Steve Rogers is gonna like die in the first one, and I hope it, even if it's not Captain America, I hope it's someone as significant as him, because frankly, this universe needs to take a hit like that, because they haven't killed anyone properly yet, and it's like almost a little bit ridiculous.
Well, I think it'll be smart there just needs to be a shift in all of it. I think Iron Man should go to space. I think the Captain America should die, and I think the Avengers should be left in the hands of a bunch of people who feel like they're in the shadow of a legacy. You know, Earth is fucking reeling once again from another interdimensional battle. And now it's, Spider-Man is officially an Avenger, and you have, Anthony Mackie's is Captain America now, or Winter Soldier's Captain America, whoever it is, and it's all these people being like, are we going to be able to be as good as them?
And the thing is, as well, that would be almost a meta theme to explore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Which would be a great way to do that. Like it would be a great way to like get us to like endear to those characters. You know, if they are exploring something that we're all thinking it. We're all like, are we going to like it as much when these people aren't in it? Like they should absolutely be aware of that.
I was disappointed in this not being as connected as I wanted it to be to larger Marvel.
Interesting. I felt the opposite. I was happy that it stood alone. Like, because I've been so, you know, for the past year or so, like I've been starting to get increasingly more frustrated with.
Me too.
Like with movies going, next time we'll finish this. Whereas this felt like it was like one whole thing, and I thought it was like, you know, as a way of example of that, like they finished on a shot of Rocket crying, and I was like, that is a movie. That is one whole film.
No, I agree, but I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. I mean, even the first one had an Infinity Stone in it as a central point of the thing, which you knew eventually was gonna, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like I was saying this to Tim when we left. It's like we got so spoiled by those post-credit things in the whole beginning of Marvel that now I kind of don't like the joke ones. They sort of bother me. I'm like, you taught me what this was. I didn't make up what the post-credit sequences are. I was told what they are.
I do totally agree with that. I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
I think that like the movie as a whole, like finishing the movie and keeping it as you know, one complete thing that doesn't need you know, outside stuff is great. And but those post-credit sequences, all of them, when I saw it the second time and Hazel hadn't seen it yet, I was almost like, there's no point. Like none of them are that interesting. Like none of them like felt like I was like, I remember that like even, you know, none of them are really better than the first one in Iron Man when Sam Jackson is there and he says we're putting together the Avengers. None of them are better than that. But I missed that feeling of when the Marvel logo comes up and having that feeling in my stomach of, oh my fucking God, they're doing that. I didn't have that this time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, even really like Adam Warlock. Yeah,
and we had that even with Doctor Strange. At least, you know, we got to see, oh, okay, so he's gonna somehow be involved in Thor. Cool. Like, you know, that was enough for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it's like, you know, the Sam Jackson scene doesn't, you know, we're putting together a team does not cross out I Am Iron Man as the ending of the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, it's not like it makes it less of a complete.
However, I will say, disheveled hair gold woman at the end gave me new fetish.
Yeah.
Brand new fetish.
I also as well.
To death.
I really appreciate
to death
now
by an army of golden women. If they could just come into my house and just work my bag until it's just a fat purple mess. Just leave me screaming.
Holy God.
That would be great.
I must say though, you know, even though nothing really got me jazzed in the post-credit stuff, I do really appreciate now that they know that those end credits now have to be just as entertaining as any other part of the movie, because people are going to stay and watch them. People are going to stay and watch them, so they design those credits now, like, you know, in this movie especially, to be almost like opening titles, like almost like to be as sort of interesting as that. Like they're well designed. They're like almost like part of the movie rather than the end of the movie. I really appreciate that.
I think that's a really great thing. I mean, it's also nobody's really going to be reading the names, but it's nice for the people who worked on the movie to give the audience a reason to stick around and look at their name. It's like, hey, I worked on this movie. Here's who I am. Maybe my name will be I Am Groot, and then it'll switch to my actual name. It's kinetically interesting. You want to look at it, and I agree 100%, Jack. I think it's wonderful that they're starting to do that.
Unfortunately, in the beginning, we had another case of the theater not understanding how to
mix sound levels.
Play their sound.
Oh, fucking hell.
Because when it started, like that Mr. Blue Sky sequence should have gotten me rock hard. And it was not the movie's fault, but the theater, it was so low, and there was a whole, I guarantee, I put all the money in my bank account down on that. There was an entire channel of audio. Yeah, all $16 of what I have. There was an entire channel of audio that wasn't there. Like an entire layer of sound effects, and also everything was too low. I could hear Tim like chewing next to me with perfect...
Yeah, like, we all know I chew on the exact bass frequency that movie theaters.
They put so much effort into, like, you know, these things aren't mixed by amateurs. Like they're not, the
Right. It's insulting to the creators.
yeah. It's
who
like,
have
come
spent
on, man. Like
hours,
this is fucking
hours
years of someone's life. Like if you're
making
not,
sure that you hear Rocket's little tittering feet on
Yeah,
this
I wanna
marble
hear those-
floor. He spent hours doing that. The Foley artist, the audio
Yeah.
editor, and you're shitting on it. Some fucking teen with acne running the popcorn machine doesn't know what a bass level is.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
I want to hear Drax's elbows crack.
Totally.
I want it all.
I want to hear his nip. He didn't have nipples. What the fuck? Oh, it
Yeah.
makes my nipples hurt. Motherfucker, you don't have nipples.
Tim's mad about
Costuming.
this. Tim's mad about
Right,
this. part.
I have a question. Did you enjoy it more than the first one or not?
Yes, I did.
I think I did. Honestly.
I did too.
On a pure sugar level. On a pure,
And I
like, yeah, sure, just keep giving me jokes.
This as well has like become a little bit of. I feel like we're in the minority. I don't think we're representative of what people. I think most people are like, yeah, I liked it, but it's not as good as the first one. But I think also people are almost not. They're not doing this, but they're almost fetishizing the first one to being like,
Definitely.
Yeah, of
it was
course.
like so good, and it's like it wasn't that great. Whereas I think that this one like just improved everything in every category.
I think I agree. Honestly, yeah.
The first one, I think, is a lot shorter than this. I think it's like an hour, 45 minutes, right?
Right.
Something like that.
I don't
I think
remember.
it's tighter
I
than
don't
this,
know.
or maybe like 2 hours exactly.
Yeah, this
spent
one
an
could have done.
inordinate-
This one could have done with being tighter. It could have done with a more of an edit and like
Yeah. I
just
agree.
being trimmed in places. But like, it's that sort of shit that I can just sort of let go. I've become less nitpicky the sort of the older I'm getting, and also because I think it's the closer we get to making. Movies and whatever, the
Right.
sort of more we do, the more I look at stuff and go, people have worked really hard on this. And if it's not exactly to my taste, that's not their fault. They've done it to the best of their ability. So I try not to lately.
But there is like this metaphysical idea of pacing. Like you just feel it when you're in a
Yes.
movie that's
Yeah,
paced
totally.
well. And sometimes, especially for people who have an eye for it, it can totally take you out of it. So the point I was going to make was Guardians 1, how it is a tighter movie, but we also spent 45 minutes in the kiln. Like we're in that prison for a long
Is that true?
part of that
45
movie.
minutes?
A long time. Probably not
Well,
45
that's crazy,
minutes.
'cause
but
it
it
was-
is a large chunk of that film.
Again, and what I was getting at when I was saying I liked this meandering a little bit, it was like it was cool to me. It was like, oh, this doesn't feel beholden to like up the ante every scene. However, it was maybe 5 or 10 minutes behind me realizing that. As in, like, there was about 10 minutes in the movie where before Ego started making his turn and before Rocket and Yondu were together, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's like,
I was
what are we doing right
Yeah,
now?
I was literally like, wait, what are we up to? What is this
Yeah.
story? What are we
Yeah,
doing?
where's it going? I had a very similar feeling, but I think a lot like what Jack is saying, I was just kind of coasting at that point where I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to see more of these characters. What are you
Agreed.
up to?
And it was making me laugh so frequently.
Yeah,
Ego's
totally.
Planet was pretty. I liked looking at it.
Yeah, I like
that
looking at
setting.
all of it. Like, I think some people like have had some problems with like his little graphic pods that he keeps, where he just like shows his backstory to us. I too didn't really enjoy the design of what was in there.
Yeah, me neither.
But yeah, whatever. They've got to show the backstory in some way, and that was.
You know what I didn't like about that? It's not that I didn't like what was in there. It's that the way the movie was presenting it was like it was this grand thing. And it's like, oh, it's just like a CG model of a dude without a face with like some hair. It's kind of, it's supposed to be like you're in the grand gallery of this like god. And it
Right.
really just wasn't that impressive. Especially compared, I like a lot of the sci-fi tech in this. I want to say
Yeah.
there's a lot of variation too. Like the Sovereign versus Ego's planet versus the Ravagers versus everything is remarkably different and unique looking. I really dug that. I mean, especially Ego's ship when they're just all sitting in there and it's like this hyper modern white and gold room.
Yeah.
Like this looks awesome. This is an awesome set.
Rocket's
like an actual
all
set.
Rocket's toys were
Yeah.
sick.
The lasers on the mining cart where like
Yeah.
it's the balls and they can reposition themselves. That was so
Yeah, that's
fucking cool.
Oh shit! Also, guys, we haven't talked about the fucking soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
That was solid.
It was such like we've been talking about it about how like this time it's a little bit more of an obscure choice of like songs. So like I hadn't heard songs like the Brandy You're a Fine Girl. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
I hadn't
That's
heard
funny.
Come a Little Bit Closer. All that sort of stuff. And like now I've been listening to it non-stop on in my own
Yeah.
time, and I just adore every single song on it. And I thought it was just a perfect what's the word?
Cohesion.
No. What is it with the combination of songs? Like a collation?
Sure.
whatever. Yeah, like a perfect like
Definitely.
choice of all those songs. And like, I also love how like they integrated them into the film. I mean, a lot of it was, hey, put that song on. Like, a lot of it was that. But I enjoyed it a lot more.
Silver track.
What, sorry?
The silver track at the very end works so well. The Shang-a-lang.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck.
yeah.
I really dug that. But it's funny that you hadn't heard Brandy. So that song is extremely popular because it's written by where we're from. It's
Yeah, to go back though a little bit, and like what you were saying, Jack, about we get more forgiving because we do understand the fucking effort that goes into this.
Yeah.
And again, this gets a pass by and large, and as much as James Gunn as a personality he doesn't annoy me. Like, I feel like I want to say this in not a harsh way because I don't mean it in a harsh way, but I've maybe gotten a little overexposed to him, and I feel like he's very present on social media.
He's
and like
Lin-Manuel Miranda 100%, where it's like, look, I don't necessarily dislike what you do, but man,
Well, that's
you
for
are
you.
a lot of a person.
you don't like Lin-Manuel.
You're a lot. No, but he's a similar kind of like personality.
It was someone who genuinely was like a little, he's like a fucking dork.
Exactly.
And then eventually,
now
which
the
is
freaks. We're one. All the freaks are now the leaders. It's like,
somebody
okay,
sounds like
take it
no,
easy.
but I like that, and I for that reason I have a lot of love for him and a lot of like, man, that's fucking sweet. You
Yeah.
spent so much of your life not being part of this stuff, and now you have one of the biggest things
now he's the
ever.
man.
You know what I mean? And
that's
you're
right.
writing and directing these insane movies. But there's something about him that started to rub me a weird way, and I think it was it's kind of like how you were saying, Jack, about like when people were losing their minds so much about the first Guardians. It's fucking La La Land. It's this is never an attractive opinion to have, but it's hard when there's so much love for something to not a little bit look at it and be like, wee wee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
But I was gonna say, like, as far as much as me, saying like, I forgive it. I know how hard this was to do. Like, look at this fucking raccoon. He looks great.
He does
I can't
look
imagine
amazing
how
this
hard
time,
that
yeah.
shit was.
Yeah.
He's great, and his characters, so much of it does well. But I still don't forgive like those bigger like emotional things, like when it's supposed to be him coming to some giant emotional conclusion in his soul, and that's how he wins against the bad guy. If I don't understand the big conclusion he made in his heart, that to me is like, I don't know, I have a hard time like looking past that. I feel like you didn't get me on board all the way.
I feel you.
It's, you know what I mean? I don't know. So it's like I can forgive it and love it for all those other things it does very well, but I don't know. Those are the ones those are the big ones. I don't know if you really look at. I don't know, but I guess if we always go down to like, what's the movie trying to do? So maybe it isn't even really the big one,
Right.
Like you feel the heart of the movie. You can tell again, it cares about everybody in it.
Well, that's why I wave away all of it, because it's what we said at the very beginning, what Jack said. This is a comedy.
Yeah,
Flat
yeah,
out.
you're right.
This is a
Honestly,
comedy
you're right.
film. Like, if you're going into this expecting like the Marvel action bluster, like you'll definitely get the action, but this is 100% trying to make you laugh. And if it fails to do that, then it's not good. But if it's making you laugh,
I think it's another
then
example.
it's doing good.
It's another example of what Marvel are doing recently, which is that they are making genre films now. They are
Yeah, absolutely.
They
This
are
is
like
an action
transitioning into like, so Ant-Man was a heist movie. Just a side note, I rewatched Ant-Man recently and it's terrible. It's a fucking bad movie.
Yeah, I watched it. I wouldn't say terrible, but I agree with you that like it lost some I don't know.
That's a troubled production. We could do a whole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we could do a whole discussion about why that movie doesn't work. But like, the first time I watched it, I was like, "This is fun," and then I rewatched it the other day because I was like, "I want to watch something that's easy," and I was like, "God, this is so bad." Like, I didn't want to watch it. I was like, "I'm turning this off." But anyway, yeah. So like the heist movie, and I think that we can all imagine that the new Spider-Man movie is going to be like a John Hughes teen movie. And it seems like they're going more and more away from this is a superhero movie and more like we're going to make specific type of movies with these characters in them, and this is this is absolutely an action comedy.
Oh, this is the Zappy Gun parody 1950s serial sci-fi.
Yeah.
Everyone, all the aliens are brightly colored and like everything is pew pew pew. It's not like a dour Star Wars. This is like intentionally a sort of space parody earnest film at the same time.
Yeah.
To your point of making the genre films, I've heard that before, and I would actually disagree with some of them. I think that Marvel would like to think that, but I think at the end of the day, like Captain America 2 is a Captain America movie. It's not like a spy thriller exactly. I think as time has gone on, they've gotten better at it, at doing more genre.
It's funny you say that, though, because that's one of the few ones where I do think they're on the mark tonally, and even just the way that one looks. But that was also because that was the first one who started looking that way. And then I feel like, it's the Russo thing or whatever. I feel like then Civil War kind of looked the same way. And then I kind of lost track of like what that spy movie look was.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that I remember seeing Winter Soldier and being like, this is different. This feels very modern, and the action is fucking slick.
I wouldn't say spy thriller. I'd say Jason Bourne, because it feels
yes,
like
it does feel like that. That's what it is.
Like, so let's talk Civil War, when they're like running down that highway, the whole scene with Black Panther.
Yeah,
that's
even the camera work, everything about it feels very gritty, sort of like we're in the real world of espionage. Like that feels like what they're going with. Whereas this is slick and bright and almost like people have been saying psychedelic. It like almost like, I mean, especially that bit when they're jumping through like.
That was so fucking funny.
That was so funny. Dude, so fucking funny.
It boils down to like this dumb shit you would do on a Mac, where you have you're making your eyes big and doing silly voices, but seeing it in a $200 million production just destroyed
That's
me.
it, right? That's the thing. This is it. That you've hit on it there. That having the the courtesy to have the care of having emotional arcs in a movie, to see that in a $200 million movie is amazing. To see Groot essentially get little comedy sketches throughout the movie, that bit where he keeps bringing back the wrong thing, like I was like, this is a $200 million movie, and you've essentially made a sketch that we would put on YouTube where someone keeps misunderstanding and bringing back the wrong thing. And it's like just seeing this in such a huge movie makes me go, this is different, and I love it for that.
I kind of, that's actually one scene. I do agree. I love that scene conceptually. For me, I think the pacing of it just
I think the pacing is a bit off as well. I think that like it doesn't really have the rhythm that it needs to have, but I sort of forgive it because of how funny the toe scene is.
Yeah, but the toe needed to be the first one. Like he goes and he comes back with a toe.
Or that's the one that was the one before he actually
I really love it. Like there's so many ones that I like. I love the toe. I love the... That's a desk. I really love that one as well.
That is funny, where it's
that was, I mean, but then we're also circling in on again, it's like, and maybe it's a fault of the movie, or maybe it's just a fault of expectation, where it's like, but in a comedy movie, in a big fucking action comedy, you're allowed to spend 10 minutes on that part or whatever, however long that, maybe it was only like 5 minutes, but like, that's a part of a big action comedy.
Yeah, and what I love about it is the way when I approach writing, I'm like, okay, this is the plot point that they're doing now is that he needs that fin for the top of his head. How do they do that and make it a joke rather than just a moment where he goes and gets it? And the fact that they've thought about it and made it like a standalone little scene that you could show somebody and make them laugh, I really respect that, because I think that that's just thinking outside the box a little bit. Like rather than just going, okay, now we need to go and get his fin, so we'll do that. They've turned it into something else.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, I could play the easy chair on that one a million times over, though, of like maybe what would have been more effective. I mean, I continue to have the opinion. It's like, if there are these action things in this, or there are these this big sci-fi plot to this movie, where a lot, because it does do that. Like it is doing that. It does have, a toe in the water on that. So when sometimes it skirts around explanations or whatever, like even in that scene, like the fact that there is all of a sudden a prototype fin for his head, like we didn't hear shit about that until that scene, until like right before he needed it,
sure.
Which is kind of bizarre to me, right? Like when you're thinking in this big, like what should be a well-plotted sci-fi adventure
and then
thing,
Taserface says he's got the fin. It's like, oh, so you knew that was in there?
You knew that was in the drawer. Why was that not something that was like taken from Yondu and then put somewhere? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think a lot of that scene is where the pacing problems of the movie comes from. The whole time that they spent a lot of time on that ship.
Yeah.
And I mean, and the Taserface bit, while like, was pretty funny.
Yeah.
It went on for a while, and that's a lot of this movie. And like, I'm sure a lot of people will find that very funny and find the scenes really great.
I mean, I was enjoying it.
I was
right?
enjoying
I was
a
like
funny
entertained.
scene. Like I think it could have been dialed back a little bit. I think that the bit, the last moment when he says Taserface and she like sniggers at it and then she just bursts out laughing, I thought that was a bit too far. But that's just a taste thing.
Yeah, I agree. But I think when you're critiquing a comedy, that's when you can now bring it in. Like when there's this many jokes, I think the movie's opening itself up to critique for some of its jokes.
Of course. Yes. Yeah.
Just let me talk comics real quick. Some implications of the Yondu Finn. Yondu is not what he is in the comic books.
Right, yeah, no.
It's not even remotely similar, but that Finn is the way he looks in the comics. So just as a comic book fan of Guardians, what was it, 3000? They're the Guardians in the future, is what Yondu is. He's a Guardian of the Galaxy 1,000 years in the future. It's nonsense. But I kind of dig that. And some really interesting implication here is this is the first time we've ever confirmed Celestials in the Marvel Universe.
Let alone Celestials, but fucking Watchers, man.
Yes. And the Watchers in
Holy
there.
shit,
The
yeah,
Watchers
I
just being there.
love that theory that Stan
so
Lee
cool.
is the reason why all these movies are connected.
Yeah, and he's just telling the Watchers everything. Like he's the one that is God dictating where the universe is going.
That's so funny.
That's really funny. But also, so the Celestials, Galactus is a Celestial, famously from Fantastic Four. So that kind of opens up like, oh, is there more villains beyond Thanos possibly? Like, are they ever going to encounter Galactus in like a meaningful way where he's not like a big cloud?
So here's something that wasn't clear to me, right? And maybe it was just me the way I watched it. But is Peter Quill still half god?
Yes, but I think his powers are dormant.
Yeah,
and I bet we're gonna see something awaken with like the Infinity Stone, where like, oh, he could still use it.
Right. So like, because he said, didn't he, that like even Ego said that if he was away from the planet too much, his powers would go. Right. He would need to recharge by going to the planet. So now the planet doesn't exist anymore. Peter can't charge his powers. Something else. Needs
He
to,
can't draw from that energy.
but he still has that gene. That's essentially it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, sure.
Yeah, he's not still no longer half Celestial. It's just who he is.
Let's also give one little nod to I'm gonna make some weird shit.
Yeah.
because that was
That
was funny.
That
I'm
was
gonna make
funny
some
as hell.
weird shit. It was so good. It was such a great performance, and also such a
I
great
can't even-
payoff when he fucking created himself to look like Pac-Man.
Does fucking
Yeah.
Pac-Man? Yeah,
it is a good payoff, but I can't speak praises to that line enough. Just how serious he's
Yes.
taking. Like he's contemplating the powers of a god,
Yeah.
and still has this childlike mentality happening at the same time.
some weird
So fucking
shit.
funny. Just a great improv by Chris Pratt.
I was fucking shocked when they first introduced him having some sort of power thing.
Right.
Like there's scene where his hands first glow or whatever. I was
Oh, I
like,
agree.
what the fuck are we doing?
Well, what I was thinking was like, so Marvel Universe doesn't have a Superman analog. Holy fuck, are they going to make it Peter Quill?
Yes.
Oh my god.
That's what
And
I
then-
was thinking as well. Because like that end fight with them two, I was like,
oh yeah.
I mean, I've talked about this in a video. I talked about it in the review I did on my channel on YouTube. But like, I said that end fight between the two gods felt a little bit Man of Steel-y. And,
It looked like it.
and I was
absolutely.
like, why don't I care? Because I was like, I hate that sort of stuff. But when I was watching it on this, I was like, it sort of works. And then I realized, oh, it's because I care about what's going on.
Well, you know
That's the
what's funny too?
difference.
As I was watching
Also,
that,
it's a
I
film.
was like, I know that there's going to be the scene in either Infinity War or something where Peter Quill is like, yeah, I mean, like, well, I flew this one time. I was able to fly this one time. Like, no, it's crazy. He was like inside a planet. He was my dad.
Yeah, that's going to be there. If it's not, I'll be disappointed.
And it was like, I was like so aware while it was happening that that's going to be a thing that he's going to be fucking psyched about some other time.
Oh, absolutely, because it's a thing that absolutely
I
happened.
really like as well that like the reveal that he is half god. I hope that James Gunn was thinking ahead this much, but and I assume he was, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. That I love the fact that gives an answer to why he can hold an Infinity Stone in the first one.
Yeah.
I love that. That's like sort of context, like later on.
Don't they sort of? I think they imply that at the end of the first one, because he's with the Nova Corps and he's with the Grand Nova woman, and she's like, "You're not Terran, by the way. You're half Terran, and you're whatever your other half is something very ancient."
Yeah,
and he's
so
like,
that's
and then
cool.
I think maybe she says something like that might explain why you were able to hold the Infinity Stone.
Yeah, but they don't
I think
ever
she
say
says
that.
something.
Yeah, great. I love that. Then, like when I watched that, I was like, I love that has made the first one make more sense.
And it's also, again, just from a comic book's perspective, it's a great conservative way to, I guess conservative is not the word I'm looking for, consolidate. It's a good way to consolidate some disparate things. Ego
Right.
is not related to Peter Quill even like as a character. I can't recall a time they ever really interact. Like I guess maybe
in the comics
15 years ago. Yeah. So like kind of to take Ego and change him into a Celestial, which I don't think he is in the comics, and then have that tie in with Peter Quill and have it be interesting, I think is just really great work on Marvel's parts of like using their characters, using their properties, and changing it into something.
This is
because who gives a fuck about Ego, really?
Right.
There's no big Ego fans out there. So to kind of take that, I thought it was brilliant. I thought they did a great job with that.
Well, that's how you do, and we're about to fucking do this Spider-Man 3 one, but that's what you're supposed to do when you take an element that maybe doesn't work or is, that's fucking Sandman, dude. It's like he was never...
Save it.
But this is what I'm getting at, though. This is the good way to do that. You take something that's like, who gives a shit, really? And because you know what that was? That was James Gunn just likes Ego the Living Planet.
Right.
Like, he just likes the way that thing looks. And he was like, all right, well, cool.
Yeah, he could have picked anything from it and created it into what he needed it to be. But he liked Ego.
He likes the way that shit looks. He thought it was weird and cool. All right, now how do I make sure that matters? That's the way you do it, man, with these movies.
Yeah.
How do I make sure that matters? That should be the question every single time when they want it. And that's usually what they do. Marvel's pretty good at, we've talked about this, about the checklist, about, okay, we have to have blah, blah, blah. We have to have blah, blah, blah in this movie. And then it's like the Russos or whoever's job to put the puzzle together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's solving a fucking riddle.
I think we're about to see that as well with the Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming, because it looks like he's going to be, a culprit again of Tony Stark. Like, it looks like instead of him being shunned by Osborn, like he is in the comics and the cartoons, it looks like he's going to be shunned and sort of taken advantage of by people like Tony Stark, which is like a great way of integrating it into the thing. This remains to be seen, but I think that your point is correct, Dominic, that it's just Marvel are doing a great job of going, okay, this interpretation needs to be important to this version of this character, not just because it's been like that in the comics.
Absolutely. Right. And that's another consolidation, not to get too far into Spider-Man, but they're kind of taking Shocker, Vulture, and I think there's one other one. And
the Tinkerer, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah, sure.
Tinkerer.
Right, so it's
they're having them fill the Wrecking Crew niche, which is in the comic books. The Wrecking Crew is just like a bunch of bad dudes, like who just found these super powered items, and now that's who they are. I'm pretty sure that's what Vulture's supposed to be in this one, right? He's some kind of like populist union leader or something. Like he's all about like anti-billionaires,
Right. Well, I mean, in the all we get in the trailer is like
we don't really know his character motivation.
People like Stark, they don't care about guys like us or whatever. Blah blah blah.
Interesting. Very poignant at this time as well.
Yeah, well, especially, I mean, who better to do that with than Spidey? I mean, he's the fucking teenager from, just some neighborhood in Queens. Like, he's the dude who is the most lower middle class of the, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm curious to see if Spider-Man ever interacts with Guardians.
I mean, he absolutely will do, obviously, in the Avengers.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to see that, like, Peter Parker and Peter Quill meet each other, and because they're quite similar. That Peter Quill, Peter Parker, and Tony Stark are all quite similar people. And even to an extent, Doctor Strange. Like, they're all quite similar in their attitude and their sort of arrogance.
You can even see a moment where someone screams Peter, and like Spider-Man has like a little freak out, and they realize,
yes. I'm excited to see how everybody reacts to the talking raccoon.
And the talking fucking tree.
As far as the leaps in what they've seen, they've got aliens, they've seen blah blah blah, but like the fact that it's an animal that is from Earth, standing on 2 feet and talking and shooting guns, there's going to be some reevaluating.
Oh, I'm so excited about that for Rocket's arc of returning to Earth, and like because they've kind of been dancing around it where he knows he's sort of a raccoon and like he hears what that is to finally come back to Earth and like see raccoons and realize like what the fuck am I? Like what am I?
What does he say? I'm not a raboon.
Yeah. Also, as well, this is just coming to my head. Another one of the best jokes in the whole of Volume 2 is, you look like Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Is he cool?
He's cool.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Like that is such a funny fucking bit.
Right, that like shouldn't work. Yeah. Like that should be kind of fucking ham-fisted, but like
no. What kills
really
it is because
it was really funny moment, and it was really sweet.
The camera pans back, and yes, he looks exactly like his feet are like angled in that way where he looks so silly.
Yeah, and also it's just like a moment where like Peter Quill is making fun of him, and then he takes the moment to be like, No, actually, I'm complimenting you.
Yeah.
I think that's such a great way of using comedy, and I think this is why this sort of works, because I think that comedy is a great way of leading in an audience, into a false sense of security, so that you can then just like punch them in the gut with some emotion, and they won't be expecting it, which is what I think this does.
And I believe that conception. I still will put. I'll have my foot down on like. It just didn't, when it did finally do the death scene and the emotional thing, like it didn't connect for me.
There's a delicate balance. I agree with you, Jack, 100%. We bring up the Scrubs example all the time.
Scrubs,
TV show
right?
Scrubs that's why that any kind of emotional moment worked, is because it's like funny all the time. But there's like a line you have to grind. And I think that there's like, if you make a little bit too many of these kind of jokes, it takes away from it at the very end. And that's just a give and take you have as a movie.
Yeah. You don't want to see the clown cry, right?
Yes.
That we say?
Right. The clown crying is the clown cry.
Yeah, you do the clown when the clown cries.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crying clown.
Make clowns cry. That's what we always say.
What the fuck are you two talking about?
All right, guys. We're bringing some final thoughts on Guardians
final
2.
thoughts. Let's hear it, Jack.
Final thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Great movie. Had a lot of fun. Liked it just as much both times I've seen it. I liked it more than the first one. Have some minor problems, but overall, not going to complain about it, because I like the fact that they took the time to try and add some emotion into a movie that cost $200 million to make, when they really don't have to, because they knew it was going to be successful anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agreed. I'm gonna go see it again. I actually kind of can't wait to see it again. I had a good time. Made me laugh a lot more than I thought it was going to. Like big belly laugh, like honest laughs. But again, there was some of the little emotional things. Not all of them. I will maybe backtrack on that. There was stuff that still got me, and I still felt for. And obviously, I care about all those characters. But yeah, there was maybe. It didn't give me as powerful as a punch as I wanted to for the end.
I would agree with that. It didn't punch me in the gut. I think more of me just appreciated that they wanted to put emotion into it. I didn't tear up myself. I think Hazel did, and I think obviously some people did, but I'm from a point of view of appreciation that they actually wanted it to be emotional.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's got a soul. It's got a soul.
Completely,
both of these movies have more of a soul than maybe a lot of the other Marvel movies. And
I agree.
Yeah, I appreciate it for that.
Just from that last shot, it's
exactly
a Rocket crying. It's that's his arc, where he realizes Yondu is dead, and that's who he could have been, and he realizes things will change and how important family is to him. And there's so much happening in Rocket's head at that last moment, and then he just end of the movie.
I love Rocket.
I think that's a great ending, but like you said, we don't quite earn it. It's almost not earned.
Right.
Or rather, it's almost earned.
But isn't offensive at the same time.
Right, absolutely.
It doesn't make me go
what you're going for. That might have worked for someone else, but it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that would probably be my final thoughts, is that I think that it sort of sabotages itself by being a little bit too funny at times. But overall, I liked what it was. One of my favorite bits from it, I mean, Drax was hilarious in this.
Yeah.
However, he was also probably the main offender of like a little bit too many jokes.
This is with the Flanderization, right? Everybody in this movie was a little bit.
Yeah.
Isn't that the term for like when
everybody's got a bit? Everyone the Sorkin thing where everyone's doing quips.
Well, no, it's the I think it's like a TV trope term or whatever on like that fucking website, Flanderization, where it's like what's the word? A quality of the person's character that was at one point kind of a peripheral additional quality of them. That
now
was
it defines them.
That's who they are. So like we got that with Drax, we kind of got that with Rocket, we had that with Gamora and with Nebula. Like
I see
it's
that.
sort of everybody became.
They picked one bit of their character and then doubled down on it.
Well, they were playing the hits, right? Not to make a music joke, but like it was okay. We see what everybody loved about each of these people.
This was an expertly focused, tested film. I will give it that, and I think they did a good job. One of my favorite bits was just. I'm sorry, Jack. What were you saying?
No, go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say one of my favorite bits is, this is a terrible bit to do on the podcast, but at the very end where he's saying, Yondu wasn't your real father? It's like, no, well, why would you think that? And Rocket's like, he's blue. And then Batista just sort of eating this like weird space cereal, just kind of gestures at Peter like, he's not blue. Like it's so, I can't explain how fucking funny that is.
Yeah. I really, really liked the bit at the end, because they could have done this growth almost. Like it wouldn't even have been that important, but they could have at least gave it a change at the end where where Drax says to Mantis, it's beautiful just like you. And they could have left it there, but they still made it a joke by him going, on the inside. And I thought that was so funny.
But isn't that him? I think that's the last line of the film.
That is the last line of the movie. Yeah, it's the last line of the whole movie.
He's talking about everyone in the Guardians. He's talking about every single one of them. Like, you're all beautiful on the inside.
Right,
and then that's the end of it. That's so poignant, but I love it.
One more quick thing. Nebula and Gamora, surprisingly, when they hugged, that was maybe the most like, oh, I felt that one. I understood this idea of like that. You'll always be my sister, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm a sucker. We've said this before. I'm a sucker for someone who doesn't like hugs.
Yeah.
Getting hugged and liking it.
I also really appreciated as well them doing North by Northwest to the fucking biggest, like the biggest version of that I've ever seen. Yeah. I was like, holy shit, man. Like so it's clearly being made with love, and it's clearly being made by somebody who has a love of cinema and is just excited to be able to do this. And I know that to me is just great. Like I'm really excited for the next one now. And I'm excited to see what James Gunn when he leaves Marvel. I'm excited to see what he does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're gonna end it on a 3-headed critic.
Okay.
Jack, you know this game?
Jack, you know that we don't just end it on 3 words now. We do until it's a full sentence.
Okay.
Okay, so it's gonna go Dom, then you, Jack, then to me, then back to Dom, and then we'll just keep it going.
Okay.
All right, Domo, shoot it.
In
this
film,
sometimes
there
are
aliens.
And that's it.
okay. Yeah, I guess that's a good place. I love the idea that the person who's next to go controls the period. I think those are the rules. But yeah, sometimes in this film
There are aliens.
Other times there's not. Actually, that's not true. There's never a time when there's not aliens.
This critic doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us this evening or morning or night or twilight, whenever you're listening to this. It's up to you. It's a podcast. If you enjoyed what we did here, please go to www.patreon.com/reasonablebeef and give what you can. If you donate $5 or any money at all, you gain access to our Patreon exclusive bonus beef. It's the end of the month wrap up. We answer your emails and check your comments and just generally do things.
Bone beef.
Jack, do you have anything to plug? Thank you for being our guest, by the way.
Thank you very much for having me. It's always a fucking pleasure to talk to you about movies. If you guys don't know who I am, my name's Jack, and I make comedy on Jack and Dean on YouTube, and I also have a sitcom on the platform Full Screen called Jack and Dean of All Trades. If you feel like watching that, there's a 1-week free trial that you can exploit.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Utilize, not exploit.
No.
Use this
Exploit
one
it.
trial.
Yep, he means what he said.
Don't put words in my mouth, Tim. I know what I said, and I meant it.
I somehow missed you on Drunk History, by the way. I finally got around to watching that. It was very funny, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much, man.
I'll let you know.
Didn't see it.
You could have just said nothing at all.
Nah, I just want you to know I didn't see it.
All right, is there anything you would like to say, Dom? Last word?
I'm trying to do a new thing on that YouTube, and hey, keep your ears and eyes out. Good.
All right.
Great.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Goodbye. No. Okay.
I'm just kissing the mic now for you.
All right.
Cool. That's nice.